So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to an amazing session. I know we're between you and your lunch, maybe. So some of you must be hungry, but trust me, this is going to be an amazing session. I'm told we have 35 minutes. We have 4 amazing individuals, really leaders in their fields. And it's going to be a bit of a challenge, actually, to deliver amazing messages in 35 minutes, but we'll give it our best shot.
That's right.
Well, what we will be sharing with you today are some insights into how technology can be taken from elite level, whether it's in football or outside of football, mainly in sports, down to the grassroots level. Yeah? If you think about how much our world has evolved since the iPhone came to market, which was back in June 2007, you could see that there has been huge advancements, and I think we're going to be hearing from some of you about how has this impacted technology in the sports industry. As someone who has worked in the past with some elite athletes in the US, with the likes of Michael Phelps and Steph Curry, and right now working at Next Sports with many organizations, sometimes on the grassroots developments, we have seen quite an impressive trickle-down effect from elite level all the way down to grassroots. And with the technological advancements that we have today, there are amazing technologies on the market, like what we'll hear later on from Rob, that are making a massive difference in sports. Ben, I'd like to start with you, also having you get closest to me. You've worked for so many years in the football industry. You're one of the seasoned individuals who would say super experts on crafting amazing talent, and you are a technologist as well. Since 2007, when the first iPhone came to market today, if you would walk us through how did tech change at the elite levels in the past years?
Sure. So I can talk from my time working at Chelsea. The commercialization and professionalization of football in Chelsea, and specifically, kind of enabled there to be, I suppose, a deeper level of training and coaching that brought in more tools, and technology and data are some of those tools where you're kind of looking to exploit all of the opportunities to select the right talent, develop them in the most efficient way. And so as technology just proliferated across society, there's cool applications to sport, and you're like, okay, well, they're doing that really well in medicine and teaching, and how can we take some of that process or some of the direct tech and apply it really well within what are similar types of processes. You're taking talent, developing it, and technology has been a really fantastic supporting addition in terms of sometimes making things more efficient, more convenient, and sometimes going to a deeper level so you've got more precision and more accuracy.
Amazing. And Agus, I'd like to get all the way to you, please. You are a former swimmer. Yeah, mm-hmm. You swam at the Olympic Games.
Yes.
You're a mind coach at DC United. Mm-hmm. You work hand in hand with athletes, right? How important is it for athletes to be aware about the role that technology can play, and how aware they should be about the impact that technology can have on their performance?
Right. I think everything goes back to the first step, where is understanding, right? With your example with the iPhone, it's like you can have the best iPhone ever in your hand, but if you don't know how to use it or what to use it for, then it's not useful, right? So going back to the athletes or the organizations that I work with the teams, the important thing is to train their mind to understand the information that will help them perform the way they want to perform. Mental coaches, what do? We ask either the coaching staff or the athlete itself or the team, where do you want to go? Here, where you are right now, you are here. So we work that gap. And information and technology helps a lot. So we sort of train the mind to absorb that information to help them get closer to those goals.
Amazing. Talking about technology, Dave, you're working at AWS. You guys, you're handling so many different types of industries, right?
Pies.
And within sports, right, you're also handling lots of verticals in the sports industry. Share some insights from your end, please, on tech.
Yeah, from a sort of sports and media entertainment perspective, because sports for us sits in M&E, we see 5 common sort of pillars. There's a little 6th one of metaverse, but we'll push that right to the side for a while. We see data and analytics, and that's either used internally for coaching and performance, or we see data and analytics externally for engagement, F1 Insights, Bundesliga. We see a lot of customer 360 stuff, how are you managing your fans, the interaction, how you're personalizing it, how you targeting right from a ticket purchase to concessions in the stand and stuff like that. We see a lot of remote production stuff. There's a lot more shoulder cam content. There's a lot of sustainability efforts of reducing trucks, and there's a lot of moving that truck physically from there at the ground to in the cloud. And then we see a lot of things on smart stadiums. But jumping into sort of enabling that from pro down to grassroots, if I give you a bit of an example of a pro level, if we look at our friends, Bundesliga, DFL, they are way at the top of pushing the boundaries of what they do in technology, whether that's production, whether that's data analytics. They will look at some of the stats. If I take one of the stats, X goals, that was released in 2020, I think. And it was the first game. I think it was Bayern Munich versus Dusseldorf, actually, one of the big games. And there was a goal, like, I think it was Kimchi. I can't remember what the goal was. But he hit the goal at about the 45th minute. And we did a predictive analysis. And this predictive analysis is over 20 cameras around the stadium. It's processing over 15 data points on the player, the goal, the position, the referee, everything that's to do with that shot and that goal. And it processes it in less than 500 milliseconds to give the predictive of that goal. And it was 6% for him to score that goal. But then for us, that's elite level. But what do we do to give it to the lower teams, the grassroots? And that same tech that they use is available for the likes of VO, so the likes of Track 160, Speedio, Pixelot. You use the same machine learning services, you'll use the same storage, compute, database. Like, we don't stop anyone. It's just how you use it, how you contextualize it, how you build them models, and how you use it. And because of that scale that we can do, you can sort of use that scale for a cheaper level or lower level commodity. And that's how people like VO get out there, and that's how you get the lower leagues taking advantage of stuff.
So AWS, as an enabling technology, it is enabling companies like VO to put an amazing offering on the market that is both adequate for elite, but also for grassroots.
Yeah, I mean, the development, the rapid development of technology allows easy things like streaming, storage, capturing, all the things that we've built. To the point that Dave made, what we've seen is just an absolute explosion of talent. Moments that wouldn't have been captured before are now not only captured, but able to be analyzed and shared and promoted. And we're seeing goals that if they were scored by Cristiano Ronaldo or Leo Messi, we'd see it going around the world. These goals are being scored, probably 500 meters from here. So these things never happened before. And that's principally down to the ability of tech to be able to share. And then further on, from a technical basis, we're now seeing a lot of teams are using technology in order to scale. Whereas one scout can now be in 100 places at once, evaluating, identifying talent. This simply wasn't possible 3 years ago. So we stand a little bit on what everybody said, knowledge, but also technical capability to make sure that everybody democratically can have access.
And despite access, and I do agree with you that access today is democratized, if we may use that word, yet at the same time, awareness plays a huge role in the equation, right, to Agus's point. If we focus on data specifically, coming back to you, Ben, you work right now at Breakaway Data. You are working with some of the top leagues and top franchises around the world. How are you seeing athlete awareness of data evolving?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does differ sport by sport, but there's a growing, I suppose, societal trend, which is like data's everywhere, and so people come through the development process with higher expectations of rationalization, their greater exposure to data, and so that's bleeding into the top levels of sport now, and that athletes are typically quite cynical and critical of new things that come along, and like, how does that help me? I've got loads of things to do. How does data help me? If it doesn't help me, I just put it to the side. And so they are giving a fair road test of data to go, is it helpful for me? And the ability to use data to help those elite athletes get a stronger sense of understanding, a deeper awareness of what's going on, and so that they can then, action the key information for them. Because there's so much going on, basically give me a dashboard of my key things, what do I care about, and where are they at, and does that align with my gut feel? And look at it, yeah, cool, right, I'm just going to get on with where I was at, or you know what, that's a bit different. That's something I need to investigate, so I'm going to go and talk to my practitioners, the people who can kind of help me unpack what's going on, whether that is something I need to focus on or something that's fine.
Mm-hmm. A few years ago, and going back to you, Agus, we worked on a project with one of the prominent boxing teams in the world, and it was a project to aiming at generating awareness for athletes on the morning of about what is their readiness level, right? And there was a point in time when one of the athletes, she saw that her readiness level wasn't really high, and all of a sudden she went into panic mode because she had a fight that she was supposed to be fighting in 2 hours, right? And that was an eye-opening moment for the coach and all of the staff that was working on the project, saying, hey, hold on, like data is amazing, it is helping us, but how do we deliver data to the athletes? Should data go directly into their hands, or should it go through specialists that can channel then the information to them? Agus, share some of your thoughts, please, on this.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. And also Ben mentioned how do they feel, how they feel about the information that they have, and about when or what or how we use the information. I can go exactly to an example from last night. For example, I had a player from the Mexican League that played last night, and it's always about the context of the information, and you gotta be careful when to deliver it to them, like you said. For example, he was out of the game, out of the league for 18 months because of a long injury. So you can imagine we're 18 months really hard on the mental side. We had to work different skills and things like that. So for him last night to complete a 90-minute game, his team lost. However, he completed the 90-minute games, and by the way, he ran 9 Ks. So for that, in that context, for him was an amazing to know that data. I didn't go to the heart rate because I knew that wasn't going to be positive because he's been out of the game for so long. So it's not like you choose what you need or you lie to the player based on what he needed last night after the match. We read the things that follow the process from the mental side. Another game also last night in the MLS, I worked with a guy that went to the national team, right? And that's a different context, right? Information similar, he ran more or less the same, but the need from that coach, from that team, was different. So when he came last night, he also played last night, he came and gave me information that it was great, but I needed to sort of stop him, think of the goal from his team last night, his coach, the system of the coach, and the whole team, because that information that Men mentioned also helps the team cohesion. So then he understood it in a different way, and then, by the way he scored, he was able to read the information in that way. So the way mental coaches do is that we use a lot of information, but we just need to be careful or study each team based on each coaching staff, because we also work with coaching staff to follow those processes that are so important, right? Because there's so much information.
Yeah, I think without context, data almost causes you more of a problem. And if it's not contextualized, there's a lot of data illiteracy, technology illiteracy, and if you are not educated on that, like people come to us about tracking or this insight or that insight, and if no one's coaching them through that, I think this is almost more important, they're just overwhelmed. And
right.
we'll give them a lot of organizations, teams, federations, if they're not working well and having people like Ben or Augusto, they'll give them a dashboard with everything, and you'll just go, what is going on here? And then they will just go, bye.
Right.
And they just won't look at it.
Because they go there because they want results. Like
Yeah.
Ben said, I don't feel it, I feel it. The results will get you there if you understand it in the right way. Otherwise, it won't get you there. But this information can take you where you want to go. It's just you need to work side by side, pointing in the middle of everything, the well-being of the athlete.
So the passage from data to information is a very delicate one. Going from the fact to the actionable information is a very delicate one.
Yes.
And when we're talking about elite athletes or professional football clubs, who are competing at the highest levels, they do have the luxury to have within their departments, within their organizations, individuals like yourselves who can help and guide. In Grassroots, that luxury is not available, right? So you have lots and lots of grassroots clients, Rob.
100%.
How do they handle?
I think that the key thing is all the elements that have been discussed. But when there's a good structure, I can give a good example. I was with a club last week that has 106 teams between 8 years old and 18 years old. They have 100 of our cameras. They use all of our technology really, really, really well. But it's the core premise of what does the technical director want to achieve? How does she want her coaches to look at everything across the board from, again, U8 all the way up to 18? And when the structure's right, the benefit is there. This is a team that is sending numerous players to the national team. They've in the top college side in the country. They've got 7 of the first 11 of their players. So the proof is kind of in the pudding. When it's being used as a dynamic kind of form of learning, these young kids are tapping into it cognitively. So from that point of view, if you take on board all of the potential issues, I think there's a huge upside, which is you're able to scale, you're able to amplify whatever the key kind of technical development and identification issues are, and you're able to do so at speed. We've never seen this before. At a really grassroots level, what you're seeing is the simplest things. Grandparents can watch their kids play and can understand, which wouldn't have been able to happen before. We did a concept called the People's Pushkas, where we asked the world to share goals with us. We got incredible techers. So there's so many positives, but you do have to be mindful of some of the issues as well.
And there are some differences, obviously, between elite and grassroots, but there's striking similarities as well. And the data and the technology is a great mechanism for feedback. And at the elite level, you've got expert practitioners who are helping guide that. But at the grassroots level, perhaps it's just you with your desire and motivation, and you've got a feedback loop going around that's helping you understand where's my direction of travel, and is this helping me? Am I kind of learning and growing? And it's still the same process. It's just slightly different actors involved.
And I think the common thing, it is that as long as the well-being and the athlete, either it can be elite or not, but even that grandfather that was there, as long as the person is first, then everything follows, because that's what is going to make you last any type of process. It can be an organization, it can be the grandparents, it can be anything, right? As long as we know the line, that's what is going to be the first, then you can apply anything.
So if we focus now on grassroots, and Rob, you brought up a very important point around structure, right? Having the right organization in place. All of you are experts in what can be collected underneath the sun, right? And anyone who's working in any grassroots sports, they have to be very strict about the priority list that they put in place, so that they could focus on, if we take the pyramid, focus on getting the foundation right and then building on top of that. If you think about all different types of tracking or all different types of data that you could collect, on the field, off the field, at home, in the gym, from the body, from the surroundings, what would be some of the insights that you may have, and anyone, on how to decide where to start?
Honestly, watch a bunch of 8-year-olds who've never had their game recorded, show them their game. It's amazing. It's incredible. They're living out the dream which they normally are expecting the superstars to have. And then a good coach takes that and says, okay, here's how we can get better for the next game, keeping it fun. Now, we've met, we were talking about this earlier. We've been with Kevin De Bruyne 4 or 5 times in the last year. We just did 6 hours with him watching youth football. He had the whale of a time. So sometimes it's not always trying to aspire for what the pros do. They're professional. They're geniuses at what they do. They spend hundreds of hours a month doing it. But at the very grassroots level, can we get a little bit better than last time? Can we maybe not shoot from the halfway line? Can we maybe make that tackle a bit better? And we have so many good examples of that. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, and I think building on what's been said so far, that athlete-centered approach is certainly, it's a philosophy, but it's one we strongly believe in, which is actually if you can put the athlete at the heart of this experience, then they can kind of make choices about how they're going to move forward, of which not always right, but they can learn and grow and iterate, and that's a trait that you see in proper elite players. Like they've taken control and kind of driven their own journey. They've not kind of been passive and just kind of like, oh, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. And so the ability for data and technology to support that and to accelerate that process so that rather than taking 8, 9, 10 years to develop that level of maturity, actually 16, 17, 18, you're already tuned in, you're already differentiating yourself from the rest of the group because you know how to take key information, really good advice, and assimilate it to go, this is how I'm going to be the best version of myself.
Totally, Levin. I have an example. I work with a 15-year-old player going to pros right now, and exactly what you said. He had access to information first, of course. You have to have access, but then his process of maturity and accelerating that process, right? That I work with someone who's 20 and they don't have the same resources, and they're almost the same, right? Of course, that's a disadvantage or advantage if they can get access to that or not. But it's so important if you go side by side with that, with all the data and the technology, and someone that can support the mental side and put to the mental health first and things like that. You have a process in 1 year that you could have done in like 4 or 5 years otherwise.
And the key thing, remember, we're not handing these players a spreadsheet. You're handing them dynamic stimulus, which is allowing them to say, hey, here's where your decision-making can be better. Here's where maybe don't play that pass just then, or your positioning could be better. Your spacing could be a little bit better. These things were never available before. And luckily, through technology, what we're able to do is to give it to everybody, which is the big difference. It's not just the Kevin De Bruynes or the professionals of this world. Anybody has access to it.
And that data it's a stimulus for a conversation. You don't have to have data to have this unbelievable conversation with a coach. But with these new technologies and tools, actually it can help you give a focal point to these conversations where we both come going, okay, cool, like we're seeing the same thing, let's get to the point very quickly, as opposed to, don't quite see it the same. You're like, well, no, like, we're talking the same language.
Yeah. Film don't lie.
Yeah. But like, even just at a younger level, and you may be saying, let's not look at the data, because a bunch of 8-year-olds following the ball, it's going to put them off the game. But just watching that game back, like sticking a video camera, putting it up. When I was 8 years old, I was interested in the latest Predator boots, never mind putting a tracker on it or being able to watch it back. You didn't even have that access to that much sport to watch, because the rights are obviously a lot more carved up now, you get to watch more, but there's an 8, 9, 10-year-old sitting and watching a game back. That's just awesome.
There's actually a study that's it's in its second year that's showing that the athletes that are actually applying themselves by self-evaluation, so without anybody else being present, watching back, making notes, then having a much higher dialogue and interaction with their coach. Now, that is something that you do see the pros do really, really well. And that's the kind of characteristics that you say, if you can accelerate that and increase that, it's fantastic.
So if we take the 8 and 10-year-olds, I mean, these are kids that were born 2013, 2015, not that long time ago, right? Even like 7 years after the iPhone came to market. Do you guys believe that like this digital native young generation that is coming up now, is this helping us like accelerate the times to actually achieve performance standards inside grassroots sports?
You can do it from your phone these days. I mean, I think it's AI Scout, is it? I think Chelsea had it for a bit, I don't know, but you look at an adult now, most of them can't really operate an iPhone. I'm talking all, they can't get the apps, can't do most things. I can barely get a WhatsApp from my dad at times. Now you'll get a kid that goes into his garden, sticks up an AI Scout or something like that has predefined drills to run through. They'll film themselves, it uploads, it's pose detection, it's looking at them. That's just worlds apart of what the naturally sort of digital youth do now to what the older generation do, and that gives them access to potential fringes of moving from amateur to pro. It just gives them that little bit more chance in a very difficult world, let's be honest. It's pretty brutal at times. But it just, even if they're not going for pro, just the excitement of filming yourself. I used to watch DVDs or tapes of pros playing. Now they'll film themselves, watch it back, get a bit of analysis. It's a different generation and world. And I just think it's amazing that you can do these sort of stuff.
My kids tell me WhatsApp is for old people.
Don't ask me on Snapchat or anything else now.
I think it's really important what you said, and we cannot help it, right? We have these new technologies that we have to use it, and a lot of the young girls and guys know how to use it. I just note some of the things that when they don't know exactly how to use it, they enter into the comparison game. You see that a lot on the mental side. So if you're not careful I think it's amazing. It helps a lot. I'm from swimming, and the swimming world, it helps, your example, it helps a lot with that. However, if they enter into the comparison game or they don't understand because they're 10, then sometimes you're growing too fast. I grew too fast, so sometimes my bones hurt and I wouldn't understand. Thanks to my coach, I understood that's why I didn't swim well that day. If they don't understand that information, then their confidence goes like this. And the most important thing that you can have in a player or a swimmer or an athlete is the confidence. So the only thing I will be aware of in this information is having someone else or someone checking on that. So that information, instead of helping them, is going to hurt them. Right? That's the only thing I'll see to use them for the best of it, right? Because when you read the information to your own good, then your confidence also goes fast.
Yeah,
right?
That cultural change is fundamental to sport, because those 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they're used to their lives coming out of their pocket. Like,
right.
What do you want to do? It's on my phone. And then you go into an elite sports environment and it's totally different. So there's an expectation, whether it's explicit or implicit, that actually, sport needs to catch up and kind of be able to provide, and it's a difficult challenge for technology because consumer-level technology is unbelievable, but the scale of which they've developed that has set an expectation that, well, this is elite sport, this should be better, and yet you're such a small market, so technology needs to be unbelievably high quality to actually be valid in that elite sports environment, and then you go through the cultural changes on an organizational level of going, well, if athletes have got this, how do we prepare them to use it effectively so that we avoid all of the potential pitfalls rather than here's a tool, all the best, hope it works out.
No, I'd actually say the best case study is actually if we look at the women's football game. Because we're working with teams who over the last 5 years have seen their athletes absolutely accelerate away in their technical development simply because they were held back. I mean, I don't know if everybody knows, but 50 years ago, in a lot of countries, women weren't allowed to play football legally. So you've got a group of people who've now taken these huge leaps and bounds by tech. And that's the wonderful thing. So now it's limitless for what we see all sorts of athletes, not just geographically, but from a gender perspective. It unlocks everything. So once you have that democratized access, the knowledge is spread. And then all of a sudden, I think we see all the positive aspects that we've talked about on stage.
Totally.
So in sports in general, there is a statement which sometimes is true, but most of the times is false, which is a statement that I introduced this panel with about the trickle-down effect, right? We take it for granted that if we figure out a formula that works for the elite, then by simplifying that formula, it will work for grassroots. But if we take toothbrush design, for example, toothbrush that are designed for adults, the kids' version is not a simple trickle-down effect. It's a whole different approach. It's a whole different design concept, right? So from your expertise, do you think that there should be more investments on grassroots-centric tech that can then make its way all the way to the top, given the new dynamics of the new kids, the digital nativeness, the need to have immediate satisfaction loop almost, right, on the fly? Or do you think that the trickle-down effect is working and that should be maintained?
The thing you are using personal data, you can just generalize, because I might be the same age as you, but I'm a woman, I'm from a different country, I have different activities, so even though it's general, same thing with the athletes that we work with. I don't use, the mental training, we base our work in 3 pillars, in skills and drills. However, we do personalized programs based on the need of the athlete first, and then how to apply it in the team, and the team has to apply it based on the coaching staff and the culture of the organization. So I think it's going to be not impossible, but really hard, because we are different individuals, even though we can share data, we can share sports. I think, and the value of it is that we are different. That's something that I don't know if it's going to change.
Back to the beginning of contextualizing, whether it's data or tech, I wear a Whoop.
Right.
Anyone can wear a Whoop. You put the Whoop on, and it'll baseline you for a while, whether that's a male, a female, a child, whatever. It baselines you for a while. But it's using the same data and the same tech to give different insights and different values. Whether they're right or wrong is something to look at, but it's not a case of different tech. You'll use the same tech. You use it in a different way. You'll potentially use the same data points. Some you use more in pro, some you use less in amateur. But it's just always about the way you use it and put context to that. And that's how you get the different, you know, amateur, pro level, this different insight, this different level of coaching. You know, I could walk into Leeds, I'm a Leeds fan. Ben could walk into Chelsea. We'll have the same data and the same systems, and we'll walk through it. They'd get nowhere with me because I just won't be able to, that's not my background. I won't be able to contextualize it, and Ben would take them to another level. We'd have the same tools and a complete different output. So it just wouldn't happen.
Conversely, if you crack open our hardware, it's a supercomputer in there. It's the kind of technology which, thanks to economies of scale, 20 years ago would have been impossible. Actually, 5 years ago would have been impossible. So on the flip side, we've got incredibly sophisticated AI and hardware and software that we're giving to the grassroots. So I think it's a bit of a mix, but the application of what you're talking about, we take an incredibly complex hardware system, make it really simple to use. It comes from there.
Yeah, no, I think I suppose as an additional point into that it can work two ways. Like, I think there's a huge value for having a role model at the elite level and kind of seeing what that looks like and aspiring and kind of being able to compare and contrast yourself and like going on app and comparing yourself to Raheem Sterling. Like, great, I've got something I'm aiming for. But the experience, it does need to be not just individualized, but different. Like, I can't do what Raheem does. Like, I don't have those support structures in place or the capabilities. And so grassroots level tech needs to be able to cater for the user experience of the appropriate market segment, but it's really nice to be able to kind of put great role models at the top that you're kind of aspiring and working towards. And I think tech can, if it's used properly, can do both those things really well.
So with 3 minutes to go, one take-home message from each of you to the crowd. Yeah, the title of the panel is Bringing the Latest Sporting Innovations from Elite to Grassroots. Yeah, Agus, let's start with you, and then we'll wrap it up with Ben. One message that you would like the audience to take away home with them, what would that be?
Well, from elite to grassroots, it could be, again, putting the person first, putting the well-being in the center, and trying to focus on each individual with that information. If I have to talk about elite, then I have to say the challenge for us will be taking the data and the tech to a whole organization and taking from the individualized as a group, but to a whole like new society or society. I think the main point is focus always on the well-being on the person, and then you get the results.
Amazing, thank you. Dave?
At AWS, we always start with the customer, which I guess is the athlete here, whether it's grassroots or not, and we work backwards to what you're trying to achieve. And whatever we're trying to do with that end result, we'll use the same tech to produce similar sorts of data. It's just all about what their business or whatever goal outcomes is to achieve that. So we'll use the same thing, it's how you use it. Contextualize the data, use the right data to not overwhelm them, use the right tech for that job or that problem, and then go ahead with it. It's all out there, it's just how you use it.
Thanks.
For us, I think it's a situation of know what you want to achieve. I think our technology is meant to facilitate. It's not meant to dominate in any way. So how can you use this to achieve whatever it is you want to do technically, from a developmental standpoint, from a talent identification standpoint, or just from a sheer capture and entertainment standpoint? So I think, like any good technology, you can mold it to what you need, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. It's easy to get carried away with how cool tech is and data, and like, oh, it's a new shiny thing, the newest iPhone's out. Like, here, you're bombarded by all of that, which is alluring and attractive and fun. But actually, when you think about it from an elite sports perspective, actually the key stakeholders are your athletes and your coaches and practitioners, and making sure they are central to this process is fundamental to whether this technology actually makes a meaningful impact or not. You know, you can have all of the incredible technology you like in the world, but if it doesn't really impact those people, it's kind of pointless and a bit of distraction. So, you know, really fundamental to make sure those key stakeholders are central to this aspect, and things aren't happening to players, it's happening with them. Like, there are key really, I suppose, trust them to be knowledgeable, understanding, kind of, and bring them in on this. That's that's a way that technology can grow with elite sport as opposed to kind of moving further apart.
So then taking a player-centric approach, putting the player or the athlete at the heart of the equation, not just thinking about what can you develop for them,
Right.
but how can we involve them and encompass them inside the whole design and development process, having a process in place, having the right organization in place, and making sure that athletes are properly informed about how to interpret specific information are some of the key takeaways. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It's been amazing. Thank you so much also for the audience.